B'ezrat Hashem, this week's Parshat is Parshat Vayakhel. And we're going to discuss tonight a topic that I think has extreme relevance. You know, I'll just, as an introduction, when we go to pray, when we go to study Torah, that's a spiritual experience, right? It's a spiritual, you go to daven to Hashem, you go to learn Torah, it's very holy. But very often, perhaps, in our day-to-day lives, in our regular lives, business, family, things that are more mundane, we could feel like maybe that's not such a holy pursuit. We're going to learn tonight, not only is it, I'll show you in a minute, not only is it not holy, but it's something very significant that we're going to figure about tonight. Now, if everybody could open the Chumash, it's Parshat Vayakhel. Let me have it for a minute. Just open it up, and then everybody, I'll tell you, because you got the other Chumash.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
It's easier for me to just say a number. Vayakhel. But the English is okay, it's just the number. Here. It's page Taf Peh. Taf Peh. We have this here.
Exactly what I opened.
Really? Amazing.
It's not even like the beginning.
Yes.
No, the same thing I got.
Okay, here.
Perek Lamed Chet, Pasuk
You see, it's always ahead.
First thing I opened.
Taf Peh. You see that? Yosef on the ball. On the ball.
Gotta play lottery.
If you were doing the lottery, we were already millionaires.
Too nice. Hoverboard. You run
This
after
one,
here.
Chewy, in this one it's 526.
526.
526. Oh, you want to use that one? It's the same thing.
It's English? Yeah.
Well, you can use the English. Yeah, that's English. Yeah, it's 526. 526. You close it. It's fine. Close it. We're going to learn tonight about 526. We're going to learn about the kiyor. And what was the kiyor? Kiyor in English is translated as the laver, I believe, or basin. A sink, right? And is it modern Hebrew too? They call it a sink kiyor? Beautiful. Why was it called kiyor, by the way? Why is it called sink? Because what was the kiyor used for? One of the kelim of the Mishkan. What was it used for? I know. But in modern Hebrew, what is kiyor? Like a sink, right? Because what was it used for in the Mikdash, in the Mishkan? What was it used for? Every day the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet before they would start the avodah. That's what it was used for. Okay. But Rashi tells us something very, very interesting here. Rashi tells us, Natani, Matawatze Chumash. Wait, where was that? I got it. Oh, you gave it. It's Perek Lamed Chet, Pasuk Chet. Rashi tells us this kiyor was made out of nechoshet. What is nechoshet? Copper. But this copper wasn't from anywhere. This copper was from a very special source. Is copper. You know what is copper? It's a type of metal. Copper, like a bronze looking like this. Yeah. This copper wasn't just any copper, but it was a special copper, nechoshet, that was donated from women. And we spoke about this before in the past to see if anybody remembers this. Rashi quotes a midrash, and it's slightly different. We'll see the way Rashi quotes the midrash and the way it's brought in Midrash Tanchuma. There's also a Gemara in Masechet Sotah, which we're not going to be able to have time to get to tonight. Yud Aleph Mud Bet. And there's a fascinating idea that emerges about Avodat Hashem. Really, it's a very, very significant idea. God willing, we'll get to. So if everybody looks inside, it's Perek Lamed Chet Pasuk Chet. Vayas et hakiyor. Everybody see that? Vayas et hakiyor? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the pasuk says as follows. Vayas et hakiyor nechoshet. Moshe made the kiyor. The kiyor was made out of nechoshet, copper. Ve'et kano nechoshet. And the base of the kiyor, at the bottom that held it, was also copper. And what does the pasuk say? B'marot hatzovot asher tzavu petach ohel moed. No, this is here's different chumash. Lamed chet chet. Taf Peh. Lamed chet chet.
He cannot find it here.
The pasuk. Oh, you can't find it here? No. Slicha. Lamed Chet Chet.
You got it.
Here, right there. Lamed Chet Chet. You see that? Exactly. Yosef, you're with us. Good. Vayas et kior nechoshet. He made the basin, the kior, out of copper. Ve'et kano nechoshet, the base of the kior out of copper. B'marot hatzoveot asher tzavu petach ohel moed. Now these words are strange words. B'marot, marot are mirrors. Hatzoveot literally means of those who gathered. Asher tzavu, that gathered petach ohel moed, at the entrance of the ohel moed. The mirrors of those people who gathered at the entrance of the ohel moed. Who gathered? What mirrors are we talking about? So Rashi quotes a Midrash Tanchuma. Now, I want to go through Rashi first, and then the reason I want to go through Rashi is because when we look at the Midrash Tanchuma, he doesn't quote the Midrash Tanchuma perfectly. There are differences between the way Rashi quotes it and the way that it's actually brought in the Midrash. Very interesting. That's the papers that I gave you. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to the Midrash in a minute. But Rashi tells us what was the source for these. What is this? What are these mar'ot? What are these women? What are we talking about?
The women given their own
Oh, so what was unique about them? What the pasuk is telling us something about mirrors. What's with the mirrors?
The mirrors that help them to actually take care of their makeup, no?
Oh, take care of the makeup. We've spoken about this before. Let's see Rashi. Unbelievable Rashi. I don't want to go through the whole thing. We don't have enough time, but let's go through at least part of it. Everybody looks at Rashi. It's on pasuk chet. It should be right there. B'marot tatzova'ot.
Yeah.
In my Chumash 526, it's the first paragraph. B'marot tatzova'ot. Pasuk chet in Rashi. Says Rashi, chet. B'marot tatzova'ot. Says Rashi, Benot Yisrael hayu biyadan marot shera'ot bahen kishehen mitkashtot. The Jewish girls had these mirrors in their hands that they would use when they would apply their makeup. Okay, these were used to put on their makeup, their blush, their lipstick. These were the mirrors that they used to use, and this is what they were donating for the Mishkan. Even those they did not withhold from donating for the Mishkan. Everybody was donating money and gold and silver. They brought their mirrors to donate for the Mishkan as well. Okay? However, says Rashi, it wasn't a simple story. Vaya mo'es Moshe bahen. Moshe was disgusted with them. What do you mean disgusted? He didn't want to accept these. He didn't want to accept them. And why do you think he didn't want to accept them? Why do you think?
Because they did it for relations. They kept it for to keep looking good for their husbands, so they're not going to assimilate.
Okay, so let's go simple. What was it used for? So they could put on their makeup. This is something that's not so holy.
So the husband gonna like him and the next baby. That's what Hashem
good. Yosef, excellent.
You're getting good.
Why, if you say simple pshat, why was Moshe mo'es bahen? Why did he not want them? Because this is something used for a very basic use. It's not holy. Okay. Vaya mo'es bahen Moshe bahen mipnei she'asuyim li'yetzer hara. It says because they were used for yetzer hara. This was used to beautify themselves, and that create ta'ava. Ta'ava is not something we want to put in building the Mishkan. Ta'ava is lust. Lust. We don't want to use those for the Mishkan. We don't want to use them. Said Moshe Rabbeinu said, I don't want this. But he was wrong. So, Moshe, what Moshe was holding, his initial position, what he held, look, they're using it for beautification, for lust. We don't want to use this for the Mishkan. The Mishkan is the holiest thing. Yeah.
They don't put anything on top of their head, and they leave their head open, everything. What is the reason they are putting that? They wanted that the guy
Excellent. So what Shlomo is saying is 100% true. It's true. Girls use it to make themselves beautiful so they get married. But Moshe said something like that should not be used for the Mishkan. We only want the holiest quality things. This is what Moshe was saying. Comes HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hold on. Amar le HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he said like this, Kabel, accept these mirrors, and listen to the words of Rashi. Ki elu chavivin alai min hakol. not just that I want these things, these are the most dear donations to me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The most beloved donations are these mirrors that the girls are bringing. More than all the millions of dollars of gold and silver and tchelet and wools and materials and dyes and all that. These mirrors are the most beloved items that are being donated. Why? Says Rashi. Sha'al yedeyem, Yosef knows, Sha'al yedeyem ha'amidu hanashim tzva'ot rabot b'mitzrayim. Because with these mirrors, the women caused legions of children. You know what legions is? Multitudes, many generations of children to emerge in Mitzrayim. Remember we did the Gemara in Sotah. That's what happened. Says Rashi. That's where the word tzva'ot comes from. Tzva'ot. Rashi learned tzva'ot means legions. It means the women that were tzav'u. What is it talking about? It means the women brought those mirrors that caused reproduction, that caused all these children to be born. What happened? Because this is the Gemara in Sotah really. When their husbands were exhausted from backbreaking labor, let's add in a little more, and they were so beaten down that they didn't even want to have relations with their wives, which is a natural desire, by the way. They were, oh, excellent. Oh, David, beautiful. David remembers, amazing, beautiful. These women, they saw their husbands were exhausted and they didn't even want to have normal relations like a normal ta'ava, and we're going to see the Midrash in a minute. It says a little bit different, but let's see Rashi. They went out and they would bring to their husbands out in the fields ma'achalu mishteh, food and drink. Not only they brought them food, they would feed their husbands. They assisted them. Now listen to this, unbelievable. Then they took those mirrors. By the way, look, it wasn't used to put on their makeup. Listen to what they used them for. They put on the mirrors. Each one looked at the mirror with her husband, okay? And she would seduce him with words. She would motivate him to have the normal ta'ava with words. And she would say, Ani na'a mimcha. I am more beautiful than you. Don't think Joyce is going to be a big inyan over here. Big inyan, Yosef. This is a big inyan. Hold on. They would hold. Don't make jokes. This is serious. It's real. It's a real inyan. I didn't hear.
They need the attention.
They held the mirrors, they looked at it with their husbands, and they said to they seduced their husbands with words. They said, I am more beautiful than you. Okay? That's what and because of this, they would bring their husbands to have desire. And they would have relations with their wives, and they would give birth, they would become pregnant, and they would give birth there. Now I'm not going to continue on to go through it, but Rashi continues, we're going to skip a little bit. Why was the kiyor made out of these, which were the tools used to reproduce when their husbands were exhausted? Because the kiyor is the kli that was used to make peace between man and his wife. 1 second, slow down. Where do we know the kiyor was used to make peace between man and his wife? Lashkot mimayim shebetocho lemi shekana la ba'ala v'nistira. If a man suspected his wife of infidelity, and he warned her, she became a sotah if she was in a private room with another man, they would bring her to the Beit HaMikdash and she would have to drink a special potion. Where was that water taken from? This kiyor, from this basin. Why? Because the women in Mitzrayim who were, what's the word? Who were not honest with their husbands, they were faithful. No, the opposite. Faithful. Who were faithful with their husbands, they used this copper that was used to make the kiyor, so they used the same vessel. It's like mitzvah goreret mitzvah a little bit. It was used for the women in Mitzrayim to be with their husbands, so if there's a suspicion, you want to make peace between a man and his wife, they used the same vessel to give the potion for sotah, and she would drink from it, and it would be mitzaher isha leba'ala. Now, Rashi just told us, let's just run through the main points, because then we're going to see the Midrash a little bit different. Rashi just told us these mirrors were brought by the women, that these were naturally mirrors they used to beautify themselves with. And what did Moshe say? Don't want it. This is for Tava. Yitzhak, I don't want it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, not only you have to accept, it's the most beloved of all of the donations. Imagine, all of the gold, all of the silver, all of the workers, all the people who donated everything. This is the most beloved. Why? Because the women in Mitzrayim used these mirrors, you could call it to reinvigorate their husbands. When their husbands were completely burnt out and exhausted, they wouldn't have continued to have children. They used them to seduce their husbands that generations would continue.
They prevent the assimilation.
More than they prevent assimilation, there wouldn't have been children. There wouldn't have been a next generation. And I want to take it one step further. We know the Gemara in Masechet Sotah tells us, B'schut nashim tzidkaniyot nigal'u Yisrael miMitzrayim.
Are we talking about the extra mirror?
The mirrors they used.
But they should give an extra one.
Why extra one? Oh, to keep this one? No, they didn't want it. That's the point. The ones they used in Mitzrayim, they were donating now. And Rashi and the Gemara Masechet Sotah tells us it was in the merit of those women that we merited Yetziat Mitzrayim. And Tosafot in Masechet Megillah tells us every one of the major side point, but every one of the major Geulot was through the women. In Purim it was about Esther Malka. Mitzrayim, which is Pesach, it was from the Nashim Tzidkaniyot. And on the Chanukah he says Yehudit, the whole story there, which we're not going to get into now. This is Rashi's Shita. Okay? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said accept them. Now, before we see the Midrash inside, it's similar Lashon, we'll see it's a little bit different. We have to ask a couple of questions before we go ahead. Rashi says that these mirrors, where Hashem says, accept them, they're the most beloved thing. What's the pshat, they're the most beloved thing? Okay, I understand they did a great thing, but why is that the most beloved item of all the donations? Meaning a lot of things were donated, people gave that they were valuable, and they donated them, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, not only do you push these away, you accept them because they're the most beloved items of all of the donations. Why is that the most chaviv? Why is it the most beloved of the items? Question number one.
It's not belong to the number one mitzvah in the Torah?
Pro-revu. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's true. Okay, I hear that. Second question. What did we say these are used for usually? What is the kiyor usually used for? What's that? Washing the hands and feet of the Kohanim. Usually. It's true. Rashi says the sotah was, they used to drink from this, but not every day was there a sotah. But every day the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet from this kiyor. So we have to understand, as the Midrash is going to quote that actually, what is the symbolism? The women use these in Egypt, and the Kohanim use these every day to wash their hands and feet. That's what it's used for every day practically. What's the connection between those two? Okay? I want to tell you something the Rishonim say, I believe it's Ibn Ezra. He says an amazing thing here. These were so dear to Hashem that the Torah doesn't give us a measurement for the kiyor. It doesn't say how big it has to be. Because whatever mirrors were donated were used for this kiyor. So, as many mirrors as were donated, they took them and plastered them all together. They put so that it formed. So the kiyor could have been larger, it could have been smaller. There was no measurement. That's how dear these mirrors were. What's so special about? I understand they're special, but the most beloved of the donation. What's a pshat exactly? Now I want to see the midrash. Everybody looks aside. I give out these printouts. Just 1 second. I gave these printouts. You can look at the beginning of Tet on the printouts. We're going to go through this. This is fascinating here. Yeah, what is it, Dale? What do you want to say?
This mirror is
copper. Nechoshet.
All of them are copper, right?
Probably shiny copper, but yeah. Now look, the Midrash quotes the same story, but as we go through it, let's note there are some differences between the way Rashi quotes it and the way the Midrash Tanchuma quotes it. There's two reasons for this, by the way. Either it could be Rashi had a different girsa, he had a different text. It means there's different texts sometimes in the Midrashim. Or it could be Rashi was not quoting it word for word, but he quoted it as he understood as the pshat. But we're going to see it a little bit different. Let's see this inside. It's Tet. Everybody sees Tet? Beautiful. This is actually in Parshat Pikudei. So in Parshat Pikudei, it talks about the nechoshet of tnufa, of waving. So says the Midrash Tanchuma, unechoshet hakalot. The word tnufa actually means kalot. What are kalot? Brides. Shekain Bilshon Yavan Korim Lakala Ninfe. Because in Greek, the word tnufa or ninfe refers to brides. So these were mirrors donated by the brides or the women. Another source for this idea. Atamotze, what do you find? Now listen to this. Bisha'a sha'ayu Yisrael ba'avodat perach b'Mitzrayim. When the Jews were having back-breaking labor in Egypt, Gazar aleim Paro shelo yu yeshenim bebatehem. Adds a little bit more to our understanding. Paro made a decree that the men are not allowed to sleep in their homes. See, I was saying pshat that they were out working in the fields, but the Midrash actually says the men were not permitted to go home. Interesting. Shelo yiyu mishamshin mitotehen. Very interesting. So they should not have relations with their wives. The Midrash understands Paro made a gezerah that the men are not allowed to go home, so they can't be intimate with their wives.
He wanted to prevent any continuation.
And now, by the way, we could understand perhaps because he knew that the baby born there would be the goel would be, and there could be a continuum. He tried to prevent that. So it's not just because they were exhausted; they practically couldn't have relations. Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Chalafta explains Rabbi Shimon bar Chalafta, what did the Jewish girls do? Yardot, now this is like the Gemara and Sota. Yardot lishov mayim min haya'or, or they went and drew water from the river. V'akadosh baruch hu haya mazmin lahem dagim ktanim mitoch kadein. Hashem, this is what you were quoting, that's the Gemara and Sota. Hashem made little fish enter their jugs. They sold some of them, made some money, and they cooked some of them. They would purchase some wine. And they would go out to the fields and give their husbands to eat and to drink. As it says, now listen how the Midrash is different than Rashi. This is fascinating. After they ate and they drank, Notlot hamarot, they would take their mirrors. Umabitot bahen im ba'alehen. They would look at the mirrors with their husbands. Zot omeret ani na'a mimcha. This one would say, I'm more beautiful than you. V'zeh omer ani na'eh mimech. Now, we're going to talk about this on Shabbat. We're not going to talk about it now. The woman would say, I am more beautiful than you, and the husband would say, I am more beautiful than you. Rashi does not say this. Rashi does not say this. No. Rashi does not say this. The Midrash is different. This is unbelievable. Ta'ava, lust. It's very interesting.
They want to make both of them.
We're going to fight who's more beautiful.
We're going to talk about this on Shabbat. We're not going to talk about this so much now. The Midrash is very interesting. Woman said, I am more beautiful than you, and the husband said back, I'm more beautiful than you.
Because maybe ishtakha mehem ta'ava.
God willing, on Shabbat we'll focus more on this. I don't want to get into it now. Listen, Chevra. And because of this, from within this, they would accustom themselves to ta'ava, they would have lust, uparin v'ravin, and they would have children. Hashem will make them become pregnant and have children, etc. Now we're going to skip down, because the Midrash then goes on to say how many babies they were able to have at one time. Miraculous, many babies at one time. Shisha b'keres echat, we know that the Gemara and Sota tells us fine. Skip down to where it says Bishut otan mahamarot. It's just further down the paragraph.
Where?
Bishut otan mahamarot. It's about 10 lines from the bottom of the page. Bishut, no, the same page, but just skip down. Bishut otan mahamarot. Yes. Bishut, right there. Okay. Bishut otan mahamarot, in the merit of those mirrors, shayu marot leba'alehen umargilot otan lidei ta'ava, that they would look with their husbands and seduce them. Mitoch haperach, from the back-breaking labor. Ha'amidu kol hatzvaot, so they were able to have many generations of children. Okay? Shne'emar, like it says, Yatzu kol tzivot Hashem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ba'omer, it says, Otzi Hashem et bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim atzivotam. Kevan sha'amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe la'asot et HaMishkan, when Hashem told Moshe to build the Mishkan, Amdu kol Yisrael v'neit nadvu, all the Jews got up and they donated. So everyone brought gold and silver and precious stones. Everybody brought with great zrizut. What's zrizut? Alacrity, energy. Everybody brought quickly all kinds of donations. Amru anashim, so the women said to themselves, Ma yesh lanu liten b'nidvat hamishkan. What could we give for the donations? Amdu ve'viu et hamarot. They brought these mirrors. Ve'alchu lahen etzel Moshe. Now listen to how the Midrash is different than Rashi. They brought these mirrors to Moshe. Now listen to this. This is much stronger. Kishra'a Moshe otana marot. When Moshe saw them, za'af bahen. What's za'af bahen?
He was angry.
It's not just that he disgusted them, he was angry at them. Angry at them. Amar lehem Yisrael, he said to the Jewish people, Tlu maklot v'shabru shokehen shel elu. What does that mean? Take sticks and smash the thighs of these people. Who's he talking about? The women. This is a much stronger storyline. Everybody see, one second. You hear what he just said? I don't want these so much. Take sticks and smash their thighs. Legs. What's shokayim? What's shokayim? Of the women, it sounds like shokayim.
Maybe Moshe was angry because they are giving away their mirror. So how can they make a baby?
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Shlomo is saying an interesting chidush. He's saying maybe his upsettedness was because now they can't use it for beautifying themselves for their husbands. Very interesting. Let's see. Hamarot l'mayin tzrikin. So he said, what do we need these mirrors for? Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Moshe, al elu ata mevazeh. You're disgracing these things. Hamarot ha'elu hein ha'amidu kol hatzvaot halalu b'Mitzrayim. All of those people who donated before the women came, they are the product of these mirrors. Why are they the product of these mirrors? Because without the women, you wouldn't have children. Without what the women did with these mirrors, there wouldn't have been all of those generations of legions of kids who donated gold and silver and copper and all. They're because of these mirrors. Tol mehen, take them. V'aseh mehen kiyor nechoshet v'kano lakohanim. Make the basin for the kohanim, like the kiyor. That from that the Kohanim would wash their hands and purify their hands and feet every day before service. Like it says, etc. With the mirrors that created all of these generations of children. Therefore, he goes on to explain, we're going to stop there with the Midrash. So what is the Midrash Tanchuma different than Rashi? Let's just point this out. A couple of differences. We're not going to focus on all of them. First, we are beautiful, but both of them said we're beautiful. That's what the Midrash Tanchuma says. But more so, we see Moshe gets very upset. And Hashem says back, take them, because all of the children that brought all of the donations are products of these mirrors, and therefore accept them, and the Kohanim will wash their hands with this every day. So let's just reinstate our two questions. Question one. Who's that? Right here. Question one. My notes. Question one. Question one is, why is this more chaviv? The Midrash doesn't say it was more chaviv than everything else, by the way. Rashi says that. The Midrash doesn't say this was the most beloved. Why is it A, most beloved of the donations, and B, what is the connection between the mirrors and where they came from and the Kohanim washing their hands and feet every day? What's the connection? You want to say something? You want to say something before? Matan.
But also, the copper, the material of copper is very cheap. I don't remember where I heard it. That probably Moshe Rabbeinu was kanai to the building of the Mishkan, and he didn't want to use a cheap material.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. You're saying maybe he was upset because they were donating something cheap?
I don't know if it's something cheap. The material of copper is basically worth nothing. When you take something that is, you have to la'alot b'kodesh.
Oh. Interesting. The problem with this answer is other people also donated copper and it was accepted without a problem. This copper was a problem. This mirrors. The simple pshat, I just want to say, by the way, the simple pshat is, like Rashi said, this is for Yetzer Hara. Moshe said, I don't want it. And Kadosh Baruch Hu said, this is the best thing. This is my favorite thing in all of the donations. Okay.
But the question is why?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why is this the most beloved thing? That's beautiful. But why does that make it the most chashuv? most significant.
There won't be all these.
Oh, beautiful. But also another guy who took all of his money that he had earned and worked his whole life to earn.
What are you
And
going
he
to do with
dedicated.
the money without the next
Oh, okay, I hear what you're saying, but still, one could argue.
He's a product of the mirror.
Oh,
The other guy.
Exactly. The guy that brings the gold
I hear.
is the product of the lady.
So what Yosef is saying is
Now
true.
the lady will bring it.
According to the Midrash Tanchuma, you could say that's the pshat. You could say that since the emphasis of the Midrash is the children are the product of those mirrors, and therefore it's the most beloved thing. But the problem is the Midrash doesn't say it's the most beloved thing. Rashi says that, and he doesn't mention anything about the children being the products of that. It says tzvaot, but the question would be then, why is that the most chashuv thing? I like this pshat. I'm going to say a little bit different. I think this is a good answer. I think it's a good answer.
Rabbi, also,
Yeah, go ahead.
By looking at that mirror, the moment they were selling themselves as a beautiful
So they're husbands, right?
person,
Right.
the husband. So
Right.
that's a very valuable thing.
It is very valuable.
for
Very
them,
valuable.
and they are giving it away.
Rabbi, I have another answer.
Another pshat.
Okay, go ahead.
Because that mirror for women was the most valuable thing to have a relationship with the husband.
Okay.
And they donate the most valuable thing that is.
Oh, I like this
for
pshat.
them.
I thought this was simple pshat.
This is for them.
I thought this was
for-
simple. It's their most intimate item.
It's more intimate and more everything for
Beautiful
relationship.
pshat. It's the most intimate item for the women. It's like them giving their own gold watch. It's like their personal
It's more
item.
valuable than
Beautiful.
everything.
Beautiful. I like this pshat. David's suggesting that's their personal. If somebody goes and donates gold and silver, he has a lot of money, whatever. But if he donates a very personal type of item, that's more special. Beautiful. Now listen to the Gemara. There's a Gemara in Masechet Brachot that says something very interesting. We know every day we say in Kriyat Shema, Ve'afta et Hashem Elokecha. You should love Hashem, your God. We say twice a day. B'chol levavecha, with all your heart. B'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. U'b'chol me'odecha.
Everything you have.
And what's b'chol nafshecha? So what's nefesh? Soul. So the Gemara, and it's actually a Mishnah in the beginning of the 9th parak, Nun Daled Amud Aleph in Masechet Brachot. It tells us that the Torah is teaching us b'chol nafshecha, v'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha. B'chol levavecha. What does that mean? B'shnei yitzlecha. Sorry, with all of your heart, plural, with your two hearts. Who has two hearts? In the Halavai, we should only have one heart, you know? V'yetzer tov u'v'yetzer hara. Now, what does it mean? It means we serve Hashem with our yetzer tov and with our yetzer hara. Now, I understand how you serve Hashem with your yetzer tov. You wake up in the morning, you go to tefillah, you're doing something. Yetzer tov, it's your, you want to call it your good inclination, your positive inclination. But what does it mean that we're supposed to serve Hashem b'chol levavecha with your yetzer hara? How do you serve Hashem with your yetzer hara? What does that mean? Yetzer hara is like your negative inclination. You know, in the movies, they always have the two little guys sitting on your shoulders. This one tells you to do this. This one tells you the red one and the white one. You know what I'm talking about. So that's an imagination. But what does it mean you serve Hashem with your yetzer hara? How do you serve Hashem with your yetzer hara?
It's much harder to serve Hashem with Yetzer Hara.
How do you serve Hashem? Explain.
Okay. So Yetzer Tov, it's very easy. You wake up, everything good. Yetzer Hara tell you, no, don't go to the shul now. Stay home. Fall asleep. And you fight the Yetzer Hara
Okay.
and serve it.
I like your answer.
No?
Yosef is saying serving with Yetzer Hara means despite your Yetzer Hara.
Despite.
My problem is that the Rashi says you serve him with your Yetzer Hara. You're saying you push away your Yetzer Hara. I'm saying, what do you mean serve him with your Yetzer Hara? You hear what Rashi?
Even though during the nisayon, during the tough time that you're going through with your Yetzer Hara, you still serve Hashem.
But
That's nice.
exactly-
Not
That's nice.
pushing
But
away.
that's nice. Natan is saying when a person's struggling, Yetzer Hara has got him, and even with that, he still goes and serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
In every one of us, there is tava.
It's similar to what Yosef is saying.
Different,
Similar.
because I'm not saying push it away. I'm saying even though that we say nashkivenu in Arvit,
Twist the word, man.
מלפנינו ומאחרינו, before the chet and after the chet. Also we say in Yud Gimel Midot, Hashem Hashem. Why we say Hashem Hashem? Hashem before the chet Hashem after the chet. Beautiful.
So what does it mean, serve Hashem with Yetzer Hara? Listen to this. Unbelievable.
When Yetzer Hara tell you not to go to shul, you get up anyway.
Again, so that would be serving Hashem despite Yetzer Hara.
No, with him.
That's not serving with him.
He's sitting on you like you say over here.
So
don't go push you back.
So you're not serving with him. You're serving despite him.
The Yetzer Hara is with you.
So let me tell you what fits better.
So what he's saying is, even you listen to him, you are still serving.
Yes.
That's what he's saying.
Almost the
Shots
same.
like this, Yosef. When you and I, Yosef,
Twist the board.
Find a different angle.
when we go to shul, okay, we go to shul to pray. When we learn Torah, when we give tzedakah, we do gmilut chasadim, right? Naturally, we know we're connected to Hashem.
Right.
It's easy because we're doing something that's holy. We're doing something that's lofty. We're doing something that's kadosh. So of course, to serve Hashem with Yetzer Hara, listen to this. It means when you're involved in things that are normally associated with Yetzer Hara. For example, when I go to eat breakfast, when I go to sleep, when I go to work, all of the things that one could say is associated with Yetzer Hara, where there's ta'ava, there's chemdat mamon, things that are associated with Yetzer Hara, and I still dedicate those things in Avodat Hashem, means I don't do it to serve myself, but rather I have kavanah l'shem shamayim, that I'm doing these things so that I could serve Hashem with more energy, healthier, calmer mind. That is serving Hashem with Yetzer Hara. So what does it mean? It means when I sit down to eat breakfast, so either I could eat my breakfast and say, and I'm just eating because I'm enjoying myself, or exactly, or I'm eating because I want to be strong to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm using something that's chomri, that's physical, that's base, that's mundane, and I am elevating it in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So serving Hashem with Yetzer Hara means those things that are usually associated with ta'ava, which doesn't sound so holy, you can elevate those, like we say, it could be metaheret atmeim. You can elevate something that's mundane, that's basic, that's not so holy, and introduce into it holiness. That becomes davar shebekdusha as well.
Making baby because I want the baby to be.
Exactly. Now let's bring this back.
Rabbi.
Let me tell you a story. Yosef, let me tell you a story. Shema l'sikum. Hold on, before we finish this up, but listen to this story. I once read in a book somewhere, I don't remember where it was or who wrote it, but the story was I took a big musar from this story. Big story about Baalei Tshuva. I thought this was it hit me. Because be'etzim we're all Baalei Tshuva. It's not just the guy that grew up irreligious or went off the derech. If we go through Yom Kippur, if we go through Yom Kippur, we're all Baalei Tshuva. So we all have Tshuva to do. I read in the following story about Tshuva, somebody that had become from recently. He came to his rabbi and he said the following. He said, look, when I wasn't religious, I used to play guitar, and I used to go to different places and play guitar that weren't very holy. I guess he used to do shows or what, boys and girls and whatever it was. You could imagine, use your imagination. So he said, now that I've become more religious, I think it's better that I just leave my guitar in the back and I don't play it anymore, because whenever I play it, it reminds me of the things that I was involved with before that's not appropriate. So is it better that I just stop playing guitar altogether? He said, it's very hard for me because I do enjoy, but I think it's the right thing. So you know what his rabbi told him? What did he tell him, Shlomo?
Do it with the shoe.
He should continue to play guitar, use it in Avodat Hashem. The opposite, it's the exact opposite. You don't push that away. If that's a chelik of your avodat, that's a chelik of you. You have a certain skill,
like personal blood is going to be shochet or moed.
A certain talent, right? Utilize that in avodat Hashem. It's not tameh, it's not asur. Use it in avodat Hashem. So maybe play music at smachot. Bring it to play with children so that the children are empowered and motivated in Avodat Hashem. He said, use your skills and abilities. Don't cut it off and say, that's my past life and I don't want to have anything to do with that. If that's a skill, an ability you have, use that in Avodat Hashem. find how you, and that's mitaheret tatmeim, that elevates something that could be looked at as very basic. No, use it in the right way. Now we have to finish up, so I want to finish up quickly. So let's tie it back together now. When the women brought these mirrors in front of Moshe, Moshe said, these are mirrors that are used for ta'ava, for yetzer hara. I don't want in the Mishkan something that's so holy and so elevated, something that's used for ta'ava. You know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says back to Moshe? You want to take the gold and silver that's holy and put that in the Mishkan, that's beautiful. But you know what's even holier than that? When you take something that's physical, that's involved with tashmish amita, literally intimate relations, women who totally l'shem shamayim use this for no other reason other than they want to make sure the Jewish people continue. They took something, lust, ta'ava, which is basic and physical, and they elevated that to the greatest level possible of kedusha. They took something mundane, like lust, like ta'ava, yetzer hara, and they served Hashem completely with their yetzer hara. That's what those mirrors are. That's much holier than the holy items that the other people are bringing. These are things that were elevated, that were tameh, you could call it tameh, and they elevated it to the highest level because they understood l'shem shamayim. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, not for any other reason. That's chaviv alay min hakol. That is the holiest item of everything, of the entirety of it.
I don't see why it's tameh to begin with.
Okay, good. So you don't see, but let's finish off. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. What's the message here? What's the message here? Tachlis, what's the message? I think it's such a powerful message.
Don't lose it, use it.
It's such a, like I started off, it's so easy in life to say, you know, when I'm in the Beit HaKnesset, okay, I'm connected to Hashem. I feel so holy and elevated. When I'm learning Torah, of course I'm connected. But when I go out there, I go to do work. So then all the bad midot come out. Or when I go to work and when I go to, you know, there's a line for food, and then I start pushing people and I start. No.
לא תחסום שום בית אישו.
Use the physicality. Use those things. Eating, drinking, even intimate relations, by the way. Yosef pointed out a little bit, but I'm going to add a little bit to what he's saying. Gives you a chavat adat. It makes you calmer. If that's true, in the right way, utilize it. Having children that are going to be oved HaKadosh Baruch Hu, serving Hashem in the right way, that's what the purpose is. So utilize the chomri, the chomer, utilize the physicality in avodat Hashem. You're doing something then that is even perhaps greater than the holy services that we talked about, because you're elevating something that is essentially physical, that is essentially base, and making that a holy thing. Which means, and we'll finish off with this, before I go to sleep at night, I could either go to sleep and say, long day, finally I can go to sleep and not worry about, or I could say, look, I'm going to sleep so that I have energy tomorrow, that I have energy to go and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with renewed energy. When I go to eat breakfast in the morning, I could either say to myself, wow, I'm hungry, let me just eat to satisfy my belly. Or I could say to myself, I'm eating breakfast so I could go off to do Avodat Hashem and serve Hashem with the greatest energy. When I go to work in the morning, I need to make money. I can either say, I want to make a lot of money so that I can buy toys and have fun and go on vacations, serve myself, or I could say, I'm making money so that I can give money to the shul, so that I can support my, tuition these days is Jewish day schools. I can pay the Jewish day school tuition at least so that my kid gets a Torah education. I'm making money so that I can elevate that money to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The difference is all in my head. But the ultimate outcome of it is a completely different reality. So this is a madriga we could work towards. What am I doing with my life? Am I elevating the chomer? Am I elevating that which is physical? Or am I just self-indulging? Just enjoying myself? That's the message of Marot HaTzovot.
מילים כדורבנות.
It's like the bracha that you said.